I wanted to come back while this was fresh in my mind. In the last video that I done about grooming, I read this thing on the internet from Neuro Instincts by Dr. Rhonda Freeman. There's a lot of great information online. You just have to look it up, and this is what had led me to these videos on YouTube, and I've found so much helpful information and insight, and the comment section is really the most helpful because these are people who have experienced the same things and they share their stories. But there's a part in this on this Dr. Rhonda Freeman talks about how the grooming phase is, they want to see if you are the person who will be easily groomed and who will become an easy supply for them, or if they're wasting their time. If you are, it says that they will quickly size you up, and if they realize that you're not someone who can easily be dominated, they will just move on because they don't want to waste their time trying to groom someone who sees through their bullshit. So this is sort of, I think, after I look back on it now, kind of what happened in my case. I can remember him telling me something, and then I would think that doesn't sound, right. One example is that I had a very good friend, and he had talked about how he knew her. He never came right out and said that he had slept with her, but he kind of left it just, on that little thought system that I was thinking, well, is that what he means when he says he used to know her when she was younger? Well, later on, when my brain fog lifted and I got to thinking about it, he was telling me when this had taken place, when he had met her, and he was talking about like a place where they hung out. And, I never knew of any such place. I grew up in that area. I never knew of any such place. But then I thought, well, maybe I don't know everything that goes on. But I got to thinking about the time frame that he had acted like he knew my friend, and he knew I wouldn't go to her and ask her point blank, because by that point, he was, he knew I was going to keep his secrets. He knew I was going to keep me and him and our conversation somewhat secret. And so he knew I wasn't going to just go to her and ask her. And anyway, once I got to thinking about it and looking back on when this would have taken place, this man's 7 years younger than myself. And if this had happened the way he let on like it did, he would have been somewhere around the age of 14 or 15 years old. And while that's not unheard of for someone of that age to hang out with older adults, my friend would have been somewhere around the age of 22, 23. He was not even living in the same state that we live in at that time. I knew, and once that I came out with it and told everyone that me and him was seeing each other and talking, she had no idea who he was. And, if she had known him or had ever been in any kind of relationship, even if it was a one-time thing, she would definitely have told me. She and I have been friends for many years. She never, we never kept stuff like that from each other. And so I knew it was all a lie. I knew it was all fake. And I think I sit and wonder why he even, and now I know why, because they will try every tactic in the book to get you isolated from your friends and family. They don't want you to have anyone to turn to. They want everyone angry with you. And that did end up happening later on with several people in my life because of him, or because of my manipulation by him. But getting back to what I was talking about, him, how they will pick who they think is easily manipulated. And I think that's one reason why he got out of the relationship with me very early on. But I think he saw that I was not an easily manipulated person. one story I'm going to share about that is once I had moved into his home, and he never asked me for money. He had a good job. He had a well-paying job. He didn't have me there because he needed someone to help pay bills or anything, but that's another whole entire story. But I did. I paid the cable bill and the water bill and a few things. Well, maybe it would be okay if I let them move back in here and me and you move somewhere else. And that was fine with me. But what ended up happening was he wanted me, and I knew of a few places around close by that we could have rented, but he didn't want that. He wanted me to move probably at least 25 miles away from my job, and it would have been closer to his job. It would have been right along the route that he would take to go to and from work. So he was telling me, this would be great. And I thought, no, it really wouldn't, because it would put a whole lot more driving time on me to and from work. And by the time I would get off work and by the time I would drive that distance home, he would be gone to work. Because we only had a short window of probably less than an hour every evening because of the way our job schedules were. But anyway, he wanted me to rent this place. And I told him, I said, I don't really have the background, to get approved for a place like that. And, I would have had to have paid more of a deposit and things. I just didn't have the money. I was staying with a relative. I wasn't having to pay any rent or bills or anything but I was saving money. But anyway, it got to the point that I said, well, why don't you rent the place? He said, well, I'll just give you the money that you need to rent it, and you go rent it. Well, the more I thought about it, and I did call him out on it, what he really had in mind was for me to go rent this place, and that it would be on his way to and from work. He could stop in, see me, do whatever he wanted to do. He knew that, when he got home from work in the morning, I had a window of maybe 3 hours before I had to leave for work. So I thought, what he really had planned was he was going to just stop in there, get what he wanted, sleep a couple hours while I was at work, get up and go on to his own home. That was really, and that would have been what would have ended up happening. Because in reality, he wasn't moving these people back into his home because he feared their neighborhood or he, worried for them. He was doing it because he was getting back with this woman and he wanted to keep me as a side chick, I guess. And, I just told him I'm not moving that far away from home for my job, my family, my friends, my neighborhood. And I ended up, just telling him, no, I'm not doing that. I'll stay with my family or I will rent a place closer to my job. And he didn't want that because he knew that he would be spotted there. If I had moved at the area he wanted me to move to, he would have been able to just stop by and it would have been like a drop-in situation. And I knew eventually he wasn't going to help me pay any of these bills or rent. He always talked about he would pay the rent or he would help pay it. And I thought, no, you won't, because if you're living with her again, you're going to, your money's going to be watched. And I wasn't wanting to be in a relationship with someone as a side thing anyway. That wasn't how me and him, the relationship that he manipulated me into was supposed to be being him only, being him. But I guess he got in over his head or I don't know. But that's just a little story I wanted to share of one little way that they will, if they see that you're not willing to play the game. If I had went along with that, I may still be stuck in that 2 years later, and I'm glad I'm not, and I'm glad I got out of it. But I would call him out on little lies that I'd pick up on. I'd say, well, didn't you tell me something different, 3 days ago? Or, when I would try to talk to him, one thing he would do that was very childish was if I was trying to have a serious conversation with him about anything, he would take his phone, turn the music on his phone, turn it up very loud, and he would put his fingers up to his lips, like, shh, just like hold my hand or something. Like he wanted me to listen to that song, and he just wanted us to calm down and just be in the moment and relax and let all this stress go. And he done that because he wanted me to shut the hell up and not ask him questions about what's going on. And real quickly, I just want to say, one song that he done that right toward the end, and I should have picked up on it because by now I'm starting to see that everything's falling apart. He done me that way one day when I was trying to have a serious conversation. And the song he played was this song by Jason Aldean called A Little More Summertime. And in the song, it's about a man who has sitting around having memories of a relationship, and happier times, and how he had spent a good time with this woman, and they had he'd really cared about her, and he thinks about her, and he looks back on it, and he misses her, and he wonders about her, and he wonders what might have been. And, at the end of the video, it shows them walking away from each other as though they're breaking up or they've broken up. And the man, he's remembering, and he's wishing that maybe he had taken a chance. And I look back on that now, and I realize he probably purposely placed that song because he was kind of in his childlike mind was trying to give me a hint. This is what's getting ready to happen to us. We're splitting up, and you're going to be thinking back, and you're going to be wondering what went wrong. And maybe he was saying to me, if you don't let things go and shut up, I'm going to discard you, and you're going to end up holding all this, And then that's it. That is what ended up happening because I wasn't good grooming material. So I just want to say to anyone else out there who's maybe going through this, or maybe they're in a relationship or starting to see cracks in these people's masks, to really ask a lot of questions. Ask yourself a lot of questions. Ask around. Let people know that you're talking to these people. Let people know what's going on. Don't be secretive. Don't let them manipulate you into being secretive and keeping things quiet. Scream it from the rooftops. Let people know what's going on so someone will come to you and say to you, hey, that guy is a piece of work and you really need to watch yourself. There were one or two people, once people found out me and him was together, there were a few people that done that and told me things. But my mind was so bogged down with what I thought was love that I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it. But boy, I ended up feeling it. That's for daggone sure. But I gotta go.